I could set you free. Show you what this world can really be. Here with me, I could set you free. Off the pain and misery and let you be. Here with me, I could set you free. I could set you free.
Like the Australian Grand Prix. Here come the 5 red lights to start the newest page of a story after a 2-year absence. And it's lights out, and away we go. And Charles Leclerc's got a decent start. Verstappen already cuts across Perez. Hamilton's dropped to 5th. Jackson is having a look. There's 3 wide into turn 3. It's Gasly, and Gasly has passed both Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris. Look how close Jackson is to Hamilton. He's right there. Is he going to try into turn 10? No. But if he gets a good launch out of turn 10, he might get a good position here. DRS, and Jackson takes to the outside. Surely not on the 7-time world champion. And here he goes, and through goes Jackson. What a stunning move on Lewis Hamilton. There's George Russell is round the outside of Sergio Perez again. Round the outside of turn 3. And into turn 4, he's got the inside line. Will he take it? Yes. No. Possibly. Oh, Jackson will. Jackson has. Jackson's passed George Russell. And now, Jackson is within DRS range of Perez. And it's going to be another move round the outside, is it? And yes, it is. Aiden Jackson's done it again. And Max Verstappen passing Charles Leclerc into turn 10 or turn 9. And he's gone through. That's no DRS on the Red Bull.
Right now. You're kidding? No way. Fingers crossed we can keep it. Could be.
I even think Jackson's surprised that he got the fastest lap there. And he's still holding on to it, you know. Max Verstappen at turn 13 to turn 14. He's the fastest man in the last 2 seconds. Please don't tell me he's going to take the last lap from Jackson on the final lap. Here he comes. He's going to do it, I'm sure. Oh, he did. Max Verstappen wins and takes the fastest lap of the last by a 10 there to Jackson.
Unfortunately, Max did beat on that last lap for the fastest lap bonus point by just a 10. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. He is the world champion and that Red Bull is fast.
Well, going into this weekend, Ferrari fans are on cloud nine right now as they return to their home of their founders, Enzo and Dino Ferrari, for the Emillia Romangna Grand Prix weekend. The team leads both championships at this early stage of the 2022 season, with Charles Leclerc leading the way in the drivers by just under a race win point margin, after 2 wins in the first 3 races. Then yesterday, they went and dominated practice 1 with a comfortable 1-2. But as the sprint race grid will tell you in just a second, that's when the shocks started. Well, welcome to Emillia everyone, I'm Supercast of YouTube at Twitch TV, and we'll be joining Aaron for the commentary box in just a moment. The European season of F1 in 2022 has arrived with a frenzied atmosphere provided by the Tifosi here as they cheer on their beloved Ferraris. And as you may have noticed, we're going racing earlier this weekend. It is of course the first 3 sprint race weekends over the course of the 2022 season, despite the split opinion they have caused with the format, particularly with Max Verstappen and Alex Albon particularly opposed to it. It also gives us a shorter pre-race segment, so with that, we'll cross over to Aaron to get his quick pre-race thoughts before lights out. Thanks, Chaos. Well, I wouldn't put myself in the same bracket as Verstappen and Albon when it comes to sprint races, but I would say they are nothing more than a gimmick, really, that feels very artificial and adds very little to the overall race weekend, very much like the double points did in 2014 at the end of the season. And as I've said before, and I'll probably say this during the sprint today, that sprint races only work in Formula 2 and 3 because of the equal spec nature of their cars. Well, there is a couple of slight changes to the sprint format this year. The fastest man in the Friday qualifying session will now earn the pole award and have the pole added to their overall record. And we also have a revised point system with 8 points for the winner now, and the points will go down to 8th place for 1 point. Everything else remains the same as last year. It's a 100-kilometre race with free child choice and no mandatory pit stops. And the finishing order of the sprint race will set the grid for tomorrow. Well, that's your format and rule set. It's very nice and simple still, apart from a couple of changes. And I think they're about to head out for the formation lap. So let's cross over and see what the first F1 sprint of the season has in store for us today. Well, the sprint certainly was a talking point from last year, with some questioning whether it was even a race at all. Some dislike the format entirely, and others think it doesn't really add much to the weekend. But it's a form of early racing on a race weekend, and who doesn't love early racing? Welcome to round 4 of the 2022 season for the first sprint of the year, the first of 3. We are around Imola today for the Emillia Romangna Grand Prix weekend. 19 corners, 3.0 miles, 1 DRS zone. It's one of the quickest laps on the calendar, so maybe sprint is the right word. Oh, and we have some rain incoming. Let's have a look at the grid then. Nicholas Tassevi and Lance Stroll are your back row, as has been for the last 2 races now. Aston Martin continued to struggle as Alex Albon is alongside Sebastian Vettel. Mick Schumacher is 18th behind Yuki Tsunoda, and Haas just get no better terms of pace at the moment. Max goes from 16th again alongside Pierre Gasly. Aiden Jackson was the real outlier with his worst starting spot of the year in 14th behind Esteban Ocon, and both Alfa Romeos with Zhou Guanyu getting ahead of Bottas. Into the top 10 we go with Nico Hulkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo. Fernando Alonso is alongside Lando Norris, and here's where the surprises are, because Sergio Perez only ended up 6th behind George Russell. Charles Leclerc is alongside Lewis Hamilton, who pulled a storm of a lap out to get to 3rd. On the front row, one half of it is a surprise with Max Verstappen, and the other is with Carlos Sainz.
The formation lap is underway.
So there they go then for the formation lap. Everyone on the medium tyres. It's 25% of a Grand Prix distance. And I think the mediums have normally been the choice for all the drivers, except maybe a couple that want to outlie and try something different. But today, it is all on the medium tyres. And like I said, we've got rain incoming. Maybe for the end of this race, which could throw some interest if it rains hard enough for the intermediate tyres, as it were.
In around 5 minutes time, so stay on your toes.
So Mark Priestley, Aiden Jackson's race engineer, says 5 minutes away. That's probably going to be about lap 5 or 6, because I think we've got times in the 90-second range round here with these cars. So maybe sprint, as we said, maybe the right word for it for this weekend. It's the first of 3. We have a revised point system with 8 points for a win and 1 point down to 8th place, so there's more points to fight for. And of course, the end of this race, the finishing order will be the starting grid for the Grand Prix. Maybe talk of revising it further for next year, and we maybe even have 6 or 8 sprint races. There's talk of maybe having a pre-qualifying for the sprint race grid, and the Friday qualifying being possible to set the Grand Prix, and then there's a second qualifying session on the Saturday before the sprint race. That could be an interesting format. Actually could be very interesting. I'd like to see how that works out when we get there. We've got a while to get there yet. And here we go then, coming around the final 2 quarters. This is a classic track. We've had classic races round here, even since its reintroduction to the calendar back in 2020. And everyone here has got plenty of experience, maybe with the possible exception of the rookie Zhou Guanyu, who I believe has not been round here before. But he's done really well to get into 11th place ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. But Alfa Romeo is still with 0 points on the board.
Okay, that's not an ideal
So,
placement in your grid slot.
and
You're gonna need
here
a
we
good
go then.
launch,
Well,
but the race
it's a
starts.
100-kilometer blast. It's a sprint. It's sort of a race as well. I suppose opinions can be divided on that one. But there are 22 cars on the grid, and they're ready to race. 5 red lights, green flag at the back for the first sprint of the year. It's lights out, and away we go, go, go. Max Verstappen has got away particularly well, but I think Sainz has got away better. Sainz has got slightly ahead. Who's going to be leading into the temporary chicane? We had contact between Verstappen and Hamilton here last year, and in they go, and there's no contact. Sainz has gone ahead. Sainz has gone ahead of Verstappen. I think there was 3 wide going to the temporary chicane. I'm surprised we didn't have a collision there because it looked really a tight squeeze, and Max has got back ahead of Sainz. That's unfortunate for the Ferrari fans. They've dominated so far this weekend. Well, in the practice sessions anyway. But in qualifying, Sainz did manage second, but Charles only got 4th. Sergio Perez is now 4th because he got a great start, beating George Russell and Charles Leclerc. George has actually dropped to 7th, so George is at the worst of a start, as has Mick Schumacher, who's down in 23rd. It's Verstappen from Sainz, from Hamilton from Perez, from Leclerc from Alonso, from Russell from Norris. That's your top 8 there, the point scorers. And then further down we've got Hulkenberg in 9th ahead of Ricciardo, so Hulkenberg had a good start. And there's Aiden Jackson looking down the inside of Esteban Ocon for P13, and he got it in the chicane. That's a great move from Jackson. It's still Zhou and Bottas in 11th and 12th. Jackson's first past the 13th ahead of Ocon. It's Gasly for Magnussen. Tsunoda up to 17th ahead of Vettel. Latifi and Albon scrapping at the back. Mick Schumacher is down to 23rd, and bringing at the rear is Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. As we end lap 1, no DRS until the second racing lap. No mandatory pit stops. You can make a pit stop if you want, but it's not mandatory. As Schumacher is looking down the inside of I think it's Latifi, and I think the McLaren of I'm not sure who that was, but he was looking around someone. And there's George Russell down in 7th. He started 5th, so he's had a bad start. And Perez at the best of it, up into 4th. And Jackson's passed the Alfa Romeo. We didn't see it, but Jackson's passed the Alfa Romeo with Bottas, and Zhou has got into the top 10. Zhou Guan Yu in the top 10 then for Alfa Romeo. And this is the first time they've been in the top 10 all year. Well, they've been there with part of the races, but they still have no points. They'll still have no points in the sprint today because it doesn't go round to 10th place. It only goes down to 8th. So, horrible luck for Alfa Romeo so far. As I think Ricciardo was having a look at Zhou Guan Yu there, but nothing doing. Hulkenberg is still in 9th, so it's a better weekend for Hulkenberg because Jackson's had the beating him in so far in the first 3 races. And there he was passing Ricciardo. Jackson, did he push him off the track? It looked off the track to me. I'm not sure if the FIA will have a look at that. It looked clean enough from Jackson, but maybe Ricciardo just ran out of space. These cars are much wider than we've had in the past. In 2006, which was the last race here, we had a storming battle, lap by lap battle between Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso. That was unfortunately the last time we race here. But then back in 2020, the cars are much wider now, and maybe Ricciardo just felt the squeeze a bit as Alonso is defending for George Russell. He's got a lot to make up now as he's down in P7, and that's Jackson now up to 11th as he's passed Bottas as well. Bottas has passed Ricciardo. Obviously Ricciardo was probably off the road by the chicane by Jackson, but on we go then. DRS is enabled, and now we're going to see some actual overtaking at the start run straight, we hope. And if Hamilton is actually in DRS range. Max Verstappen has already got out to a second lead, by the way. I know we don't really talk about the front that much because normally it's Verstappen or Leclerc that run away with it. And today it's Verstappen. He's the second clear of Sainz. That breaks him out of DRS, but it's Lewis Hamilton that is having the performance of the race so far because he is right on the back of Carlos Sainz, and Mercedes have shown some real good pace so far this weekend, and Aiden Jackson's doing it again. Now he's passed Zhou Guan Yu for 10th. And now this will be interesting. What do Audi do? Because of course, the end of this race, the result will count for the grid. So Jackson's already made up 4 places to 10th. That won't get Audi any points. So I guess what they'll do. Wait, we've got George Russell with DRS. And Alonso's cut right across George Russell there. I'll be very surprised if they ever don't have a look at that, because that's George Russell coming at pace. But George Russell makes up for it in the temporary chicane and passes him anyway. So they'll probably just disregard that now. Yeah, that was a bit of a wrong move, shall we say, from Fernando Alonso, but George got past him into 6th anyway. So Hamilton didn't make any inroads on Sainz in the DRS zone, but he is keeping with him, so Mercedes definitely have a decent race car this weekend. They have struggled with the porpoising again down the start-finish straight, and that's the same with the Audis as well. Since the Audi and Mercedes definitely have problems with the porpoising issue, there's been a talking point of the season since the start, really, as Max Verstappen almost has a 2-second lead over Carlos Sainz, and he's got his hands full with a rejuvenated Lewis Hamilton. So this will allow Max to race away. No sign of the rain yet. We're probably expecting it in a couple of laps if the forecast is correct. But now we have a question. What will Audi do? Is Aiden Jackson faster than Hulkenberg? Well, at the moment, you probably have to say he was. But of course, there's no pit stops. And there'll be no benefit to swapping the cars around, because Hulkenberg and Jackson are not in the points. And Hulkenberg probably needs the points more than Jackson does, because Jackson's coming off 2 podium finishes. Whereas Hulkenberg has unfortunately scored no points since Bahrain. Meanwhile, we have a pass here between Alonso and Norris, as Alonso continues to fall down the field now, because Norris has just moved up to 7th. So that could give Hulkenberg some impetus to pass the ailing Alpine here of Alonso. And we're looking at Ocon. I'm getting a bit confused because obviously there's a McLaren behind an Alpine. I thought it was the other one we're looking at, but it was Ocon. And poor Zhou Guan Yu had a great start. He's now back in 11th because Jackson is passing everyone for fun again. But not so much with Hulkenberg this time. I wonder if Audi are initiating team orders. There'd be no benefit to doing that. Jackson certainly looks faster at the 2 cars at the moment. Meanwhile, back at the front, Hamilton seems much closer to Carlos Sainz now. And, well, just think, if Hamilton has the car underneath him, will he catch Verstappen? Probably not. Verstappen has got the edge over everyone so far. He definitely proved it in qualifying with a great lap, but he was only 7 thousandths quicker than Sainz. Now, this is interesting. Hamilton now with 0.4 and DRS enabled and switched on for the Mercedes. And unfortunately, nothing doing. Doesn't have the pay. Oh, wait. And Hamilton there down the inside. And a great move. Hamilton, was there contact there? Oh my word. Hamilton getting his elbows out and he's past him. And that's a great move by Lewis Hamilton. Will he keep it into the second chicane? I think it's the Villeneuve chicane as we go up to Tosa. That should give it the inside line. And Hamilton has took it. Great move there by Lewis Hamilton. Certainly having a much better weekend than in the past 3 races. Especially Australia, where he was astounded by the fact that Aiden Jackson went round the outside of him in turn 11. It was a great move for Jackson, to be fair to him, though. And there is the rain. The rain has arrived. It's spitting. And now this race is going to get very interesting. We have Max Verstappen leading for 3 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But we've got a right old battle going on for second here, with Lewis Hamilton leading the way. And further down the field, we've got an interesting situation here between the Audi cars. Hulkenberg looks quicker than Jackson there, so maybe Jackson's backing off and giving his teammates some space, but Hulkenberg just isn't able to pass cars as effectively as Jackson's been in the last few races. But even still, Aiden Jackson's only made up 4 places so far to 10th, and now he's got his teammate. There's a bit of a roadblock perhaps. But now this race, the rain is really getting rough, hard. I think we're really going to get to the inters here. If it continues like this, we can have inters in a couple of laps. That'll really make things interesting. And there was side by side between Sainz and Perez, as Sainz now falls through the field. So we've got a couple of drivers who are falling through the field, probably using up their medium tyres in other battles. There's George Russell slowing down, and that'll be George with an engine failure. That's going to be George Russell out of this sprint, and that means he's going to start at the back for this race. Yuki Tsunoda's fallen 30 seconds behind Lance Stroll. And he must have had a bit of contact somewhere. He must have hit it, because there's no other reason why Yuki Tsunoda should be at the back of the field behind Lance Stroll by about 30 seconds. And now we've got Charles Leclerc passing Perez. And this is really going to mix up the grid. We're not going to have the same grid that we started the race with, that's for sure. We're going to Lewis Hamilton on the front row at the moment because he's in second place. But what will the drivers do in terms of the rain? We do have intermediate tyres, of course. And we also have wet tyres, if need be. Alonso's now on the softs. He's going to get absolutely nowhere, especially if it's raining. And, well, what happened to Yuki Tsunoda? Unfortunately, we haven't had any replays in this race. So that's unfortunate. But there's Perez then. There's Lando Norris, who's going to be comfortably in 6th because behind Fernando Alonso, there's a train forming at the 2 Audis, the 2 Alfa Romeos, Esteban Ocon, and I think Daniel Ricciardo is just on the end of it. There he is. And the Haas to Kevin Magnussen. So Kevin Magnussen, once again, making a good race out of a situation he's found himself in, up to P14. Schumacher's now 18th, so he's back in 18th. That's where he started. And well, Aiden Jackson, is he on the radio to Mark Priestley asking him to move over for Hulkenberg over for him? I mean, it's quicker than Hulkenberg, but there's really no benefit at the moment. I mean, Hulkenberg is getting a point now with George Russell out, so if anything, Audi will want to keep these positions. Hulkenberg, as we know, is the lead driver. It doesn't mean he gets every team order over Jackson. We're just kind of talking in terms of the grid here. It's not really going to make much of a difference though, but it will give a point to Audi if Hulkenberg can stay there. But it looks to me like Jackson's really struggling in the wet conditions. Is the track wet enough for intermediates, maybe? And maybe Jackson's making the call here. That would be quite interesting. Would it really be beneficial at this point? Well, if the rain's really hard, then yes. Obviously, we do have the intermediate tyres, but it's so close to the end of the race. Maybe some will just tippy-toe round, and will turn into a bit of a procession, unfortunately, due to the conditions. It is raining now, and Jackson is turning into the pits. Aiden Jackson is pitting, and I can only assume this is for the intermediate tyres. And not only that, there are drivers behind it that are pitting as well. Ocon's coming in as well. So some drivers are taking the gamble with the intermediate tyres. And if some choose to stay out and keep their track position, they'll lose it maybe in a couple of laps' time. And Vettel has also come in. So Vettel, Latifi, and Jackson and Ocon have all come in. Will Tsunoda come in? Be pretty much pointless either way now, because he must have had damage somewhere to fall that far behind. Now, what are we going to see from everyone else? Max Verstappen has a 3-second lead. The track is definitely damp enough to consider intermediate tyres at least. I think we'll say that. It's not absolutely drenched, so I don't think we'll be using the wets anytime soon. But intermediates are certainly a viable option. If Max Verstappen has any sense, he'll come in now and cause a chain reaction of pit stops behind him. As Hulkenberg is now in P8, and he is still behind Alonso, so the wet conditions are certainly not slowing anyone down at the moment, particularly Max Verstappen, as he has a 3.6 second lead over Hamilton on dry tyres. And here's Aiden Jackson on the intermediates then. So Jackson probably looking to get one up on his teammate because he was been behind him the whole race. Someone is in the pits. I think that was Perez, and it was. So a front runner has also taken a gamble. Hulkenberg is in for Audi, as is the Alfa Romeo of Bottas, and I think Ricciardo. So more and more drivers are coming in for the intermediate tyres then. That drops Perez down to 10th. It's so late in the race. Will they feel any benefit from doing so? So, listen to this then. Max Verstappen still leads from 4 seconds to Hamilton, so he's having no problems in these conditions. Sainz is ahead of Leclerc. Norris, Zhou Guanyu is 7th. Magnussen is 8th. Alex Albon is 9th. And Pierre Gasly is 10th. He was 15th on the grid. Alex Albon was 20th. He is now 9th. But is he on the wrong tyres? Well, that could be Williams' highest position since, I think, last year, actually. When Albon, I think, was in the top 10 for the no race at Spa last year. So, and now we'll get an indication there, and we cut away, unfortunately. But here's Perez going down the inside of Gasly, has to back out of it because the track is too tight in that section. And is he going to pass him in the chicane? He's going to pass him before he even gets there. So intermediates are the right call, but we're on the penultimate lap. Will the leaders stay out to... And wow, I'm seeing that Hulkenberg has got ahead of Jackson's got ahead of Hulkenberg now. So Jackson was faster. well, maybe Audi had thrown away points, both drivers, because they pitted so late, but Jackson was really struggling anyway. So here we are then on the final lap, and Max Verstappen's getting even faster on the dry tyres. He's 5 seconds clear of Hamilton, but to be fair, the top 7, the top 7 or top 6 have stayed on the dries. In fact, the top 9 probably have, with Albon there. It's from Max down to Albon, everyone's on the dry tyres. Now, Max Verstappen will win this race, because the nearest intermediate runner is Sergio Perez's teammate, and he's in 9th place. He's just past Albon. Jackson's 11th. Hulkenberg is now 15th, so Jackson was clearly quicker than Hulkenberg throughout the course of this sprint race today. But Max Verstappen, well, he's probably been helped by the fact that no one else has pitted for intermediate tyres. But the astonishing thing about Verstappen, he's got faster, and there's Jackson passing Alex Albon for 11th. Oh, that's kind of heartbreaking, to be fair, because Albon has had a stunning year so far, but he's on the wrong tyres. And, well, here comes Max Verstappen to win the sprint. He's been helped by everyone else in the top 10, aside from his teammate pitting for the intermediate tyres. He wins and starts on pole position for the Emillia Romangna Grand Prix, but it's Lewis Hamilton that gets second on the grid. That is going to be a tasty prospect tomorrow then. Aiden Jackson now into 9th. He's passed Magnussen. Has he got enough corners to pass Zhou Guanyu, who could get points for Alfa Romeo? Their 4th points of the year. It's going to be a drag race of the island. Zhou has gone squealing out of that corner, and Jackson's took 8th. Oh, and at the last, Alfa Romeo just have no luck. Zhou Guanyu is 9th. Esteban Ocon is 10th. And this is a completely different grid. And Hamilton has no front wing. Hamilton has no front wing on the slowdown lap. What happened there? Lewis Hamilton, thankfully the race is over. He's P2 ahead of both Ferraris. Lewis Hamilton, driver of the day for sure. A great result. But Aiden Jackson snatches the last point in the sprint from Zhou Guanyu, as Alfa Romeo continues to have no luck at all. Hulkenberg made his way back up to 12th. So despite starting 14th and Hulkenberg in the top 10, the Audis have somewhat swapped around without team orders. Jackson made the right call right at the end, passing Zhou on the intermediate tyres. That really was a crazy end to this race. So Max Verstappen is on pole position. We've got the interesting prospect of George Russell starting at the back, because he became the one and only retirement. And, well, that's a very different grid to the one we experienced. I think Sergio Perez hasn't really moved from where he finished up. But, of course, he was one of the first to pit for the intermediate tyres on the soft runners. The front runners. Oh, man. What an ending. So, the Drivers' Championship now has a 21-point lead for Charles Leclerc. He's lost 3 points over Verstappen. And no one else has really moved because the points are so small. So, everyone is as you were. It's just a closer gap between Verstappen and the championship leader. Hulkenberg unfortunately gets no points for his effort. He was 8th at 1 point, but unfortunately Audi have had the drivers been swapped in terms of the pit stops anyway. In the constructors, there's no change there either. Oh wow, what an ending that was. And that was your sprint, and that's the grid for tomorrow. We'll see you then when Formula 1 returns.